Come on, boy. Fine & Country understand the things that matter to you when buying or selling your home. Visit fineandcountry.com.
James O'Brien on LBC.
11:51 is the time. I think it's worth mentioning that the politics of the moment is directed largely at people who boast about how little they care. I think that might be part of the reason why. If I don't want to go to France, I don't care about abolishing that freedom for everyone. I don't care about refugees. I don't care. If they've turned it, look at Suella Braverman. Suella Braverman practically turns up on the telly every day at the moment and says, I don't care about them. I don't care about common decency. I don't care about refugees. I don't care about white celebrities. I don't care. And then you sit here wondering why social care has just had a pledged £500 million investment cut to £250 million, and my switchboard's full of people who will suffer as a consequence. 11:52 is the time. So here's some politics that actually does help people, although I need to find out a little more detail before we can comfortably conclude that it is, well, let's wait and see. Mayor of London Sadiq Khan is providing £3.5 million to supply about 10 million free holiday meals to low-income families across the capital over the next year. And he joins me on the line now. Now, normally when you announce something like this, in the next breath, you call upon central government to do the same. Is that what's going to happen today?
A bit like that. Good morning, James. The issue is this. I'm at Bubble and Squeak in Hammersmith, where lots of young people are coming along to have a good time, but also having a meal. And what we're trying to get across is, yes, I'm funding now free holiday meals, but I've got limited money and limited powers. And what the government should be doing is not just making free school meals available during term time for all children at primary school age, but during the holidays, be supporting children and their families with free meals. So unfortunately, even those children eligible for free school meals during the holidays have a real stress, and their families have a huge stress. But this sort of place in Hammersmith is a lifeline for these families. So my ask of the government is to extend the provision they have so it covers holidays, but also to widen the eligibility, because the problem is many children in low-income households aren't eligible for free school meals because their families, their household income is more than £7,400. Just think about it, James.
That's the threshold.
To qualify for free school meals, your household income is going to be less than £7,400. If it's more than that, you don't get free school meals, and you definitely don't get free holiday meals.
What if you've got loads of siblings? Does that make any difference?
No, not at all.
So if you've got five kids in a household on £7,401, they don't get free school meals?
Absolutely right. And to think about not just the term time and the stress that places on the parents, and you can understand now why many of your listeners are skipping meals so their kids can eat. Many parents are doing 2, 3, 4 jobs, not turning on the heating in the wintertime, because they aren't eligible for free school meals. They live in poverty, and they are really struggling. So one of the reasons why the announcement I made for term time free school meals was everybody goes to primary school is eligible, but also the funding I provided for free holiday meals means those who otherwise wouldn't get support can get support. And I've met 3 generations of people in Hammersmith today, parents, grandparents and the youngsters all benefiting and being relieved that they know at least one meal a day will be nutritional, will be healthy, away from the stigma.
But this is entirely charitable. There's no system in place to, before you know, even now in the holidays, there's not even on £7,400 a year, you don't get a meal in the holidays.
So there are 13 weeks holidays during the year, and for 6 of those weeks, thanks to Marcus Rashford's campaigning, for 6 of those 13 weeks, there is some help if you get free school meals. But for the other 7 weeks, think of Easter, which we're in now, think of Christmas and half term, no help at all, and the help you get is limited. So what we're doing with this announcement, and it starts already, by the way, is helping work with groups like the Phoenix Project, with the Mayor's Fund to support, as you said, 10 million meals being provided during the course of the next 12 months. But, we can't do this forever because our funds are limited, we don't have the powers, and so we're calling the government to widen the eligibility so more people are eligible, not just those in free school meals, and to extend it, not just for 6 weeks, but for all 13 weeks holidays.
I get it. Address somebody listening to this now who is possibly persuadable that this is necessary, but not currently persuaded. I live in the United Kingdom. It's 2023. I'm vaguely aware of food banks. I know about free school meals. We had them in my day, but they can't be actual children in London going hungry during the school, actually going hungry, or needing this. It's the parents' fault. They should have been able to provide something. I could cook a meal for 30p, a politician might say, or we could just have a tin of beans. How do you get the urgency of the situation over to somebody who is open-minded enough to accept it?
Well, unfortunately, 2023, in the fifth richest country in the world, one of the richest cities in the world, around half of Londoners are either financially struggling or just about managing, with food prices continue to rise sharply. And the problem is this: there are many parents, mum and dad, both working, both doing 2 jobs each, are really struggling to make ends meet. I'll give you a simple example of the cost of living crisis consequences. The average rent for a private renter has gone up almost 20% in the last 12 months. Food prices have gone up by almost 20%, but pay hasn't gone up by anything like that as well. So you can understand why, if you're just about managing in a normal year, with food going up, with your rent going up, with the cost of living impacting on energy prices and so forth, where you now can't make ends meet. And so you've got to go to a food bank, you've got to now try and find one of our food holiday places to try and make ends meet. And by the way, I'm meeting incredibly proud people with a huge amount of self-esteem, work incredibly hard, do the right thing, in inverted commas, and they're struggling. And, they're coming to these sorts of places because they need support, they need help, but they're also skipping meals. I mean, this is not a child skipping meal. This is London in 2023. Parents are skipping meals so their kids can eat. Parents and grandparents are often not turning on the heating when it's winter because they're worried about the cost of paying that. But also they're going to food banks and relying upon additional support because they can't put food on the table.
What if the government say no? What if your money runs out? I mean, in a sense, you've provided a temporary sticking plaster, but when it's torn off, the situation would be worse than if you had done nothing.
Well, the wonderful thing about our city and our country is there are some remarkable charities. The Phoenix Project is one of them. I mentioned one of the ones I'm the patron of, the Mayor's Fund. And so we've got a safety net of charities, but really, are we really saying that it's charities and the goodwill of our fellow citizens should be the safety net when we've got a state that spends a huge amount of money on all sorts of things that I think aren't a priority?
So if the government doesn't come forward, the charities just have to do more, have to raise more and do more.
But don't forget, there are families who will fall through.
Yes, of course.
The families who
make it formalised rather than something that involves application.
And I make this point as well, which is not to excuse criminality and stuff, but there's a direct link, by the way, between poverty declaration and crime going up. There's a direct link between a lack of productivity as a country and children being hungry. There's a direct link between parents not doing as well at work because they're stressed about feeding their kids. And let's be clear, yes. Austerity was a choice in 2010, 2015, 2017, 2019, and now. It's a choice our government and Parliament is making.
Finally, Sadiq Khan, your friend Donald Trump is about to get arrested in the next few hours. Have you sent him a message of support?
He could have happened to a nicer guy. But even Donald Trump is entitled to due process. Even Donald Trump is entitled to a fair trial, and even Donald Trump is entitled to have his lawyers and to be tried by his peers. And let's be clear, the same laws that apply to Donald Trump apply to those asylum seekers. They should be entitled to due process. They should be allowed to make their claim, for that claim to be processed, and for them to have access to lawyers, all of which are deprived asylum seekers. And I think just like Donald Trump deserves those, so does asylum seekers.
Sadiq Khan, Mayor of London, many thanks, and you can find out more details of that £3.5 million effort to supply around 10 million free holiday meals to low-income families online. That's over the next year in the capital. Remarkable, really. We're talking about this stuff when, as the Mayor reminded us, we are ostensibly one of the 5th richest or 6th. All that means is you count the total amount of money in the country or in an economy. You don't work out where it is. So you could have you could have 59 million people without a pot to pee in, and the richest man in the universe all living in the same country, and it would be one of the richest countries in the world. You probably didn't need that explaining, but you know me. It's 12 noon.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
from Global's newsroom at midday. The social media firm TikTok has been fined nearly £13 million for breaching a number of UK data protection laws. The Information Commissioner's Office says it includes failing to use children's personal data appropriately. Charlotte Lynch has more details for LBC.
The data watchdog says more than 1 million children in the UK aged under 13 were estimated to be on TikTok in 2020. That's against the app's terms of service, and as a result their data was used without parental consent. The Information Commissioner's Office says it could have exposed them to harmful content. It found TikTok didn't do enough to check whether children were using the platform and remove them if they were.
TikTok says it disagrees with the judgment and is considering its next steps. Campaigners have urged the Justice Secretary to fast-track plans to force criminals to be sentenced in person. It follows the refusal of Olivia Pratt-Corbell's killer, Thomas Cashman, to appear in court yesterday to be jailed for 42 years. Dominic Raab has previously said the government is considering the plans. Police in New York are stepping up security ahead of Donald Trump's court appearance this afternoon. The former president is facing a string of charges stemming from a payment made to silence claims of an affair. Finland is set to become a member of NATO in a ceremony in Brussels later. The country, which shares an 832-mile border with Russia, moved to join the alliance after the invasion of Ukraine. Moscow has warned of countermeasures if additional troops or equipment are deployed. The Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, is among the ministers attending the summit.
We'll celebrate that today and then very quickly get to work on the accession of Sweden to this group of friends and allies. An incredibly important time, but I think what we have seen is this alliance has perhaps never been more relevant, but also has never been more united, and of course has never been larger.
The former light welterweight world champion Amir Khan has been banned from all sport for 2 years for failing a drugs test. The now retired boxer tested positive for Osterin, an anabolic agent, following his loss to Kell Brook in Manchester last year. In the city a short time ago, the FTSE 100 was trading up 5 points at 76.78. The pound buys €1.14 and $1.25. LBC weather dry with plenty of sunshine for most areas this afternoon, but cloudier in the west with the chance of some patchy rain. A high of 14 Celsius. From Global's newsroom for LBC, I'm Thomas Watt.
Right, that's it. We need a bigger car.
Okay. Smart speaker, what's the best family car?
In reviews, the Hyundai Tucson has been named the best family car.
Oh, very nice.
Okay, search offers on a Hyundai Tucson.
The Tucson Hybrid is now available with 2 years 0% APR with a 30% deposit. Oh, and it's Hyundai, by the way.
Discover the award-winning Hyundai Tucson Hybrid. It's the dawn of a new Hyundai. Car Buyer Award 2023 ends 30th of June. Hyundai UK is a credit broker, not a lender. Terms apply.
This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
4 minutes after 12 is the time, and you are listening to James O'Brien on LBC. I promise I'll return to that social care subject as and when, but I want to move on to something a little stranger now. There's some legislation which I think, in much the same way actually that the social care cuts have been announced while the MPs are on holiday, cuts in pledged money. It's not a coincidence that, you know, that idea that they, well, let's do this today. And also, let's announce it in the morning because it's not going to make, it's not in today's papers because of when it was actually put out. And put up very early on a day like today. You've got Donald Trump being arrested later today. I think you're going to have some movement perhaps on the big boat, Braverman's bloody boat, as it's called. For refugees to be stuck on in the middle of some harbour somewhere. There's quite a lot of stuff, Amir Khan's doping, so they're hoping this won't get much coverage. We announced it in December 2021 and we're halving it in April 2023. So that possibly is part of the reason why it's happening. But I move you next to a completely different story that I rather like. Why am I talking about that? Because I think they've done it in the Easter holidays in order to sneak it through, and there is a chance that this legislation is heading for the statute book, because when it was proposed by two prominent Liberal Democrats in the House of Commons, people weren't paying attention. You know, you choose the right moment And it won't get the scrutiny. When would be the best time to do it? Thursday afternoon? Anyway, no matter, that's just a by the by. Rishi Sunak's actually backing it. It's legislation that allows workers to sue bosses if they are harassed by or indeed offended by a member of the public. So you're a worker, you are public facing, that's the phrase, isn't it? You're a public facing worker, and if you endure something profoundly unpleasant, you will have the right to sue your boss. Now, I quite like the sound of that, and then I look at the people who are objecting it to, and I like it even more. Sir Christopher Chope, who, as a mark of just how bonkers Britain has become, can be accurately described in the newspapers as an ex-minister. He's concerned about the way it can be abused. It's an opportunity for people to take down their rivals. I think we could probably, and Craig McKinley says it's a license for employment lawyers to have something of a field day here. So, down with protections for workers, which always slightly too shy to say out loud. On the other hand, I've worked with people many years ago, not in the media, back in my menswear days. I've worked with people who were serial complainers, and they understood HR and they understood the system better than anybody else did, and they would go to tribunal on a regular basis and have a hit rate of about 50-50. Some you win, some you lose, but it was almost like a side hustle. So I am aware of vexatious, that's a great word, that's the word I was looking for, vexatious complaints. But I don't think we talk enough about public facing jobs. It was Vera Hobhouse and Baroness Burt of Solihull who introduced this. It creates legal liabilities for businesses if an employee is harassed in the course of their work by a third party, such as a customer. Now, I think this would include obnoxious customers in shops. It's just the threshold of where harassment is, and that's where you come in. That's where you come in. Would it work here? Would it work here? I don't know. Public facing? Probably not. So third party members of the public who are harassing and offending employees become grounds for employee to take legal action against employer. So this is what I want to examine. I don't have much experience of the workplace because I've been here for so long. And prior to this, I spent a few years on Fleet Street, and before that, mostly menswear. River Island in Worcester, happy days. And then Equiscutum on Regent Street, as you know. I've done a little bit of work in hospitality, but I don't have anything to draw on it. I've got one anecdote that's vaguely relevant, but is actually pretty gross. So I'm not sure I'll share it with you. You will have heard it before if you're a regular listener to the programme. Do you remember when that Baroness came into the shop I worked in to return some pyjamas that she bought for her son? See, I don't know if that counts as offence or harassment. I've been at it because also I didn't know what was in the bag until I opened it and tipped them out, and realised, yeah, I don't think I would have told that story on the radio once. I'm not going to tell it anyway. It's too grim. It's too grim. If you ever come to if I ever finish my current book and I'm doing a live show, ask me about the pyjamas and I'll tell you the story. All right, but I don't think I can call it on the radio in the current climate. I've been silenced by political correctness. It had to happen. I've been silenced by the woke mob. It's a grim story. Does anyone remember that story? Do you remember that story? It's a gross story. I'm working in the shop, and a very, very, very posh woman comes in, and she says, "I'd like to return these pyjamas." And I said, "Why is that, madam?" She goes, "My son doesn't like them." I said, "That's perfectly all right." So I take the bag off and I empty the pyjamas out, and then obviously I pick them up to... No, it's not that, it's worse. It's worse than that. I could conceively have been quite damaged by that experience. I could have been quite traumatised, but I wasn't, and I'm being vaguely tongue-in-cheek at this point. But I can conceive of circumstances in which, when I say to my boss, as I did, I can't be expected to deal with this woman, he says, "Yes, you jolly well will." And because she was posh, and it was a very posh shop, it was like, well, you can't do wrong, peer of the realm. So I'm trying to think of examples of GP surgeries must be bloody awful at the moment. There are people taking out their frustrations on a receptionist. But should you be able to sue the GP for that? That's a great example. Hit the numbers now, you will get through. 0345 60 973. So there you go. There's the first suggestion this might not be a great idea. Traffic wardens? Maybe we've misunderstood the legislation, but let's have some fun with it anyway. Traffic wardens get attacked by a member of the public and the traffic warden sues the employer. Can the employer really be responsible for the behaviour of the clientele, the customers or the patients? It's Section 40 of the Equality Act off the top of my head, which means employers can't harass staff and bosses may be liable for harassment carried out by other workers, but they're not liable for staff being harassed by third parties such as customers or members of the public. So that's really what I want to look at, and I want to look at it. I mean, the problem is, I'll say it'd be good if we could have some funny stories, but then we'll get a story that's absolutely hair-raisingly awful, and I'll feel bad about introducing funny stories into the mix. But I'll let me negotiate that minefield of conversational conundrums. This is the point, isn't it? You would be able to tell me why you genuinely feel your employer should have borne more responsibility for the way you were treated at work by a customer stroke client stroke patient. All right, that's the crux of this. You have to explain why you do feel that the employer should have borne more responsibility. 0345 6060 973 is the number that you need. So you are customer facing. The customer treats you in a way that you find outrageous, and your boss currently just sort of says, oh, that's awful. Or he's even worse, he says, oh, suck it up. There is no real path under which your employer is held responsible for the way you have been treated at work. I can really see this from both sides now. I like it when I start trying to explain something and it begins to make sense about 10 minutes in. I can see this from both sides now. Because, I mean, you know, how can I really be responsible? I'm upstairs in the office doing the accounts and a customer comes in and starts having a go at somebody on the tills. How can that be my fault? You should have measures in place to protect. Well, like, how? How am I going to be able to do that? But equally, I've been treated absolutely appallingly in the workplace by a client, by a customer, and there is no comeback at all upon the people who put me in the path of that person. I quite like this. Let's have a chat. Let's work it out. What do we think of it? And crucially, have you ever been in circumstances, have you ever been exposed to behaviour from members of the public that really and genuinely leaves you thinking that your employer should have been held responsible for it, that you are actually entitled to some form of compensation for your employer for the way you were treated at work by a member of the public? And that would include everything from patients going into a GP surgery right through to customers being racially abused. That's a good example, I suspect, being racially abused in a shop. It's coming up to 12:15. 0345 6060 973 is the number you need. I'll leave you with one thought, and that is this. We could sit here now and go, well, that's ridiculous and that could happen and but if the employer could be held responsible for it, you can bet your bottom dollar they would find many, many more ways of protecting their workers than they currently have. They're never going to do it voluntarily unless you're very lucky. I've been very lucky over the years with employers, but generally speaking, they're not going to do something they don't have to do just for your exclusive benefit. But if they have to do it because the alternative is potential prosecution or compensation, then perhaps they will find various other ways to protect you, and that would go up to and include GP surgeries. I just head out before we start taking your calls with a quick word from Mark and a text that made me chuckle. He says, I work with my wife, James. I am fully in favour of this proposal.
This is LBC.
I hate to be that guy, but come on, you've put it off long enough. That home and garden to-do list, that's a job for the trusted trader professionals. Experts at what they do. Each tradesperson's got verified reviews and has passed the Trusted Trader 15-point assessment, taking you from to-do to ta-da. Who doesn't want to be that guy? Find the Trusted Trader professionals at
It was just another another day, a familiar drive through familiar country. But then, just around the corner, came the unexpected. He'd let his speed creep a little too high as he approached a bend, and he was no longer driving at the right speed for the road. The scary thing is, he didn't even realize driving even a little too fast for the situation is a major cause of collisions, especially on country roads where you don't know what's around the corner. Think, don't let your speed creep.
Savoir vivre.
La dolce vita.
Cari Wampo.
Pura vida.
Fermi.
Saudade.
Solificant.
Deseo por viajar.
Derive.
Wanderlust.
There are many ways to describe this feeling, but only one way to experience it. Explore the world. Discover Johannesburg, Los Angeles or Delhi. Contact your travel agent or visit Lufthansa.com. Conditions apply. Time for new horizons. Say yes to the world. Lufthansa.
From Gold Bank London. Selling your gold in 3 easy steps.
Step 1.
Visit goldbank.co.uk and get an instant valuation.
Step 2.
Bring your goods to us in person, by post, or collected by us.
Step 3.
Get paid instantly, straight into your bank account.
No hidden fees. Our best prices every time.
Gold Bank London.
The safe and secure way to sell your gold fast.
Visit goldbank.co.uk or download the app.
Health isn't someday in the future, it's now. Get same-day GP appointments when you need that niggle seen to. And getting the results for your cancer test fast. Health is a direct line to experts, whatever time of day you need it. And mental health support that doesn't have an expiry date. Feeling your best every day starts today. Search Bupa Health Insurance to get your quote now. Bupa, this is health. Pre-existing conditions not covered.
At Kia, we're taking the lead with our award-winning electric cars, including the innovative Kia EV6, the striking Niro EV, and the funky Soul EV. With a range of up to 328 miles and our industry-leading 7-year warranty, there's never been a better time to test drive an electric car with us. All models available sooner than you think. Search Kia electric cars. Take the lead. Drive electric. Kia. Movement that inspires. Rates based on test conditions and may vary. 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty.
James O'Brien on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
18 minutes after 12 is the time. Tory backlash at law to let staff sue bosses over rude customers. I explained it quite well in the end. Didn't start brilliantly, but I think we got there. So let's find out whether or not it has exciting, scintillating responses. We'll start with Jack, who's in Liverpool. Jack, what would you like to say?
Hello, James. Big fan.
Thank you, Jack.
So, I'm a bartender and I work in a bar.
I'm a footballer, I work with a football. But God, it didn't have to be in a bar, could have been in a hotel, could have been in a restaurant. Of course it could. Carry on.
It can be anywhere, do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And as you can imagine, the later a bar stays open, the more crazy things, bad things that can happen.
Yes.
To the staff or to the people who are here trying to have a good time.
Yes.
And I do think if the bar I work for is owned by a much larger company that has loads and loads of venues across the whole country.
Right.
And I think if something particularly bad or traumatic, or even, you know, if someone gets injured, that one of the members of staff, I do think that the overarching company, if they have the means to, should be liable to pay reparations in good faith, do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, and there'd be a threshold, because what I guess you'd have to prove is that they could have taken reasonable steps that would have prevented the suffering that the employee has endured. So it might be the level of security provision that is in place, or it might be simple health and safety measures that are there, or barriers to prevent punters from clambering over the bar, or whatever it might be. There'd be a case for proving you could have done more, and therefore, because you didn't do more, you bear some responsibility for what transpired.
Exactly, and it's your staff, and I mean, even the responsibility, I would say, is caring about the welfare of the staff.
Yes.
I think there's a responsibility, you know, that is implied there.
And it rarely comes in voluntarily. It usually has to be dragged out and kicking and screaming.
Like, the word sue has got negative connotations to me, like, I feel like these kind of reparations could be paid in good faith, rather than the staff going to the bosses and saying, you owe me money because this happened. It's like, this happened.
Yeah.
In fact, it was all really negatively horrible experience. I would like some, you know, rather than just go home.
You're optimistic than I am. You're more optimistic than I am, but we can meet. We can meet in the middle on that. You'd like to think there was some sort of system in place that wouldn't involve coercion or exertion, but people often need to have their feet held to the fire, I think, to do the right thing. How Larry does it get? I mean, it's a slightly silly question, but I'm trying to think where we would draw the line. What would be an example of an incident that you think qualified under this category?
Yeah, there was once just an enormous brawl. I wasn't actually working on the day, but there was just a huge, massive fight in the middle of the bar involving like 30 people or something ridiculous like that. Things were getting thrown, tables were getting thrown, there's glass everywhere, it's a Pepco bar, glasses were getting smashed. I'm not used to weapons, thank God, but that could easily happen.
What are you supposed to do in those circumstances as a barman, not as a security professional? I mean, that is the challenge, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, we get told to, because we have glasses on the bar top, we get told to drag all of them off the bar top. I just get into the back to get to safety. But we've got a panic button now because that happened, so...
well, that's a great example. So if there had been a panic button, you wouldn't have a case, but if there wasn't a panic button, you would have a case.
Yeah, I feel like that should be there, like that should be mandatory, obviously. And this is, again, the fact that the legislation is in place for you to go to your bosses and ask for money, I think is good, because like you said, in the real world, they're not going to be so open-handed, are they? So...
No, I think you're right. I like it. 22 minutes after 12 is the time. Lee's in Sheffield. Lee, what made you pick up the phone?
Hi, James. Let's show first time caller.
Welcome.
Hi. So there is some recourse for employees to take. So there is constructive dismissal. So constructive dismissal is essentially when you resign on the protest because of something your employer has done. So that might be, not paying you, reducing your salary without telling you or consulting you. But it could also be where you feel obligated to resign because the situation at work is so intolerable. So in this instance, it could be that...
that would normally be because of management or colleagues, but it could be because of customer and clientele, couldn't it?
Yes, but it's crucial though, unfortunately, it's rubbish having to deal with, abuse and harassment at work. That's not okay. In this instance, though, this is about how the employer takes action on your behalf, essentially. So, that could be if someone's harassed you in a pub, for example, and your employer doesn't bar that customer, for example, you could say, I'm not happy with how they've done that. There is a process. You need to raise a grievance. They will investigate the grievance, you can appeal it, and then if they've not dealt with that sufficiently in your eyes, you can resign. But there is a gap, There's two things. One is that you need to be employed for 2 years.
Yes, because it used to be 1 year until David Cameron got in. It was 1 year.
Yeah, and then the other thing is only 5% of claims for constructive dismissal succeed. So there is a gap. But
can we think of an example? You're clearly in HR. Can we think of an example of I thought the panic button in the last call was quite pertinent. The idea that if you haven't put a panic button in place and your bar staff get chinned, then you might be liable. But if there was a panic button in place, then it would be a different proposition, probably.
Yeah, and I think this is where I think the employer's responsibility meets the health and safety responsibility, meets the employment law. So there's all these overlapping issues, and I think there is something that the government can do to put in legislation to make employers responsible.
Yes.
But ultimately, with like that panic button example, they could take that to a health and safety exec, or if they were to claim on constructive unfair dismissal, then that'll be up to an employment judge to decide whether or not that's fair and what kind of damages they might have. But ultimately, you need to be employed there for 2 years if you do that, and that's the gap.
That's the kicker. And ideally that wouldn't apply to new legislation, but we will, as ever with these things, have to wait and see. Quite a few of you reminding me that Sir Christopher Chope, the character that the Daily Mail turned to when they were desperate for a Tory backlash at law to let staff sue bosses over rude customers, is the guy possibly best known for voting against legislation designed to outlaw upskirting, which is a slightly euphemistic term for the disgusting practice of trying to take photographs up the skirts of young women. So he sees himself as somebody who, there are too many laws, too much regulation, which brings us neatly back to why our rivers are full of shocking amounts of sewage. Adrian's in Cornwall. What do you reckon, Adrian?
Hi James, it's the pirate from the Red Lion 9.
Love you, mate. What were those nuts? How did you make those nuts, mate?
I can't tell you, I have to tell you.
Is it a top secret recipe?
It's a 3-day process.
Oh, they were like crack. They were the crack cocaine of snacks. They really were. They were. And the sticky toffee pudding. You've done a thing that if I was a chef, I'd have retired happy. Adrian serves up a sticky toffee pudding, but he serves up an extra portion of sauce as well, so that you get that, or you sort of mix it. Oh man alive! For people wondering what the hell is happening on their radio, Adrian is a chef. By the time I finish this, mate, you won't remember what the subject is. And he is a previous participant. Are you a previous winner?
Damn right.
Yeah, the first winner, the inaugural winner.
No, 2019.
2019 winner of the Sausage Roll Awards at the Red Lion in Barnes, a national competition for the finest sausage roll in the land that I had the privilege of judging this year. And Adrian had the privilege of giving me some delicious sticky toffee pudding and ridiculously delicious nuts. What made you pick up the phone, Adrian? Also, tell people how they can get hold of what's your website?
Cornishfield Kitchen.
Cornishfield.
Yeah, you'll find us.
And are you do you deliver the nuts?
Yeah, nationally.
Get the nuts, man.
I didn't call him to talk about.
No, I know you didn't. No, it's not. You're talking about what I want you to talk. I'm giving you a celebrity endorsement. Those nuts are the nuts. Now, carry on.
God bless you. Well, as with most things like this, it's a two-part. It's not black and white.
Of course.
When I had a restaurant, if it happened on occasion, you'd get drunk men being inappropriate, especially with female waitresses.
Yes.
They were never inappropriate with me. I don't know why. But now, you can't stop that inappropriate behaviour from happening. But what you can do is react to it.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't do anything, if it's come to your attention that, some guest has been inappropriate and you don't do anything constructive about it, then I think there is absolutely grounds for you to sue your employer because you have a duty of care to look after.
So he's a really good customer. Can you just go get someone else serve him now? But
No. You have a zero tolerance.
That's what I'm saying. Those are the circumstances in which you could take action against your employer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, if it wasn't dealt with appropriately, then you should be able to sue. But just because a customer comes in and is rude, you can't preempt that. So you can't be, I was offended by some horrible man. They tend to be men, but we'll say women as well.
Sure.
In my experience, say something racist, sexist, whatever.
You can't hold me responsible for that person coming here and saying something racist to you. You can hold me responsible for the fact that I didn't protect you or chuck them out or ban them from the premises forever.
Exactly. That's in a nutshell. As you do.
I can hear. Are you on the cliff tops of Padstow?
No, I'm in Trevone. I'm going to see.
Oh,
just to make you just a little bit jealous. Okay. And it's a blue sky.
Beautiful. Birds song in the background.
I'm just making stickies, that's my day. But I just wanted to say hello and thank you for your support for Hospitality Action and put my 2 pennies in on...
More than a 2 penny. It was more than a 2 penny. You can find out what I am raving about as well by going to cornish-field-kitchen.co.uk. Adrian, thank you, mate. I'll see you next year, presumably.
Hopefully so.
If not sooner. Take care. 29 minutes after 12. That's 2 of the greatest achievements of my career this year, judging the Sausage Roll Awards and the Kebab Awards. There's not a lot left to do, really. What was it that the great Sid Waddell said about Alexander the Great? He cried salt tears because he had no lambs left to conquer. That's how I feel now about meat-based judging jobs. Are there any jobs left for me to do now that I've judged the Sausage Roll Awards and the Kebab Awards? I hope I got Sid Waddell's quote right. Alexander the Great, he cried salt tears because there were no lands left to conquer. Or something like that. Amelia Cox is here with the headlines.
TikTok has been fined almost £13 million for breaching UK data protection laws. The Information Commissioner's Office says the video sharing app allowed up to 1.4 million children to use the platform against its terms. The Justice Secretary is being urged to fast-track plans to force criminals to attend their sentencing hearings. Yesterday, Olivia Pratt Corbell's killer Thomas Cashman refused to appear in court to receive his his life sentence. And Finland will become a member of NATO at a ceremony in Brussels later. Russia has already warned it will bolster its defences near their joint border if the security alliance deploys any additional troops. LBC weather staying dry with sunshine for England and Wales this afternoon. Cloudier elsewhere with spells of rain moving in from the west. Highs of 14 degrees.
This is LBC.
I hate to be that guy, but come on, you've put it off long enough. That home and garden to-do list, that's a job for the trusted trader professionals. Experts at what they do. Each tradesperson's got verified reviews and has passed the Trusted Trader 15-point assessment, taking you from to-do to ta-da. And who doesn't want to be that guy? Find the Trusted Trader professionals at
JustTrader.com. Health isn't someday in the future, it's now. It's same-day GP appointments when you need that niggle seen to. And getting your results for your cancer test fast. Health is a direct line to experts, whatever time of day you need it. And mental health support that doesn't have an expiry date. Feeling your best every day starts today. Search Bupa Health Insurance to get your quote now. Bupa, this is health. Pre-existing conditions not covered.
As a boat driver, I work hard. I work long hours, getting people where they need to be. From A to B. So, at the end of the day, I expect a fair deal from my employer. I deserve better.
Bolt drivers, following the successful Uber claim, be part of the fight for the compensation and workers' rights you deserve. Join Lee Day's Bolt Drivers Claim today. Visit leeday.co.uk/Bolt claim or text claim to 82727.
Savoir vivre.
La dolce vita.
Cari Wampo.
Pura vida.
Fermi.
Saudade.
Significant.
Deseo por viajar.
Derive.
Wanderlust.
There are many ways to describe this feeling, but only one way to experience it. Explore the world. Discover Johannesburg, Los Angeles or Delhi. Contact your travel agent or visit Lufthansa.com. Conditions apply. Time for new horizons. Say yes to the world. Lufthansa.
Passengers waiting on platform 1, please note there's been a platform change. Please make your way to platform 200. Where to? Lot of traffic, roadworks everywhere, like an obstacle course. Tell you, what's the name? Had it been a cab yesterday?
When your journey's been a handful, it matters where you stay. Raise pass check-in with the Hilton Honors app. Hilton, for the stay.
You've got 4 consoles, 5 TVs, 3 tablets, 8 phones, 6 smart speakers, 4 laptops, and a connected fridge. Sounds like standard broadband's worst nightmare. BT Full Fibre is different. Get ultra-fast, ultra-reliable speeds of up to 900 megabits, even at peak times, with prices from $29.99 and no upfront costs. Hurry, offer ends 12th of April. Switch to BT Full Fibre today. New customers CPI plus 2.9% increase each March. 24-month contract, 25.7% UK coverage, terms apply.
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
12:34 is the time. I don't think I can do the accent again, although appropriately enough, Paul is in Newcastle and he's up next. I might get him to do it. When Alexander of Macedonia was 33, he cried salt tears because there were no more worlds left to conquer. Eric Bristow is only 27. It is the finest moment of sports commentary. It's up there with Kenneth Wilson. They think it's all over. It is now. It's worthy of Motti himself, or the great Barry Davis, or Clive Tildesley. It is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful broadcasting. When Eric Bristow had just won the World Championships at the darts, and Sid Waddell. When Alexander of Macedonia was 33, he cried salt tears because there were no more worlds left to conquer. Eric Bristow is only 27. Magic. Paul's in Newcastle. Paul, let's not mention the accent. What made you pick up the phone?
Basically just to say that I am in support of that, to try and give staff more help, and the reason, my main reason being is through personal experience. I managed in a call centre for a well-known satellite television company. And one of...
There aren't very many. I know what you've done there. You've sort of done a bit of amateur due diligence, really. But we're all right on this. But you carry on. You could have just said a call centre.
Yeah, but there's that many up here that that wouldn't really be helpful anyway.
Yeah, but I don't need to know any more than that. You worked in a call centre, and someone. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah. So one member of staff on my team was verbally abused by a customer. She was in tears, couldn't take the call anymore. I took over. Was verbally abused by the same customer even more. The customer even went on to say that I wasn't allowed to speak to him because I work in a call centre, so therefore I am beneath him.
Oh, dear.
So it took an hour after I'd terminated the call to calm my staff member down, calm me down. I had overnight to think about it to see like what do I try and do with it. Next day came in still full of fury.
Yes.
And I tried to get the services cancelled because I didn't think what a customer had said was right.
Yes.
Passed it up the line, and when as far as to the team who would terminate it, they decided that he was just going to be given a warning, and me and the staff member never heard anything back. The only reason why I know he was given a warning is because a week later I checked to see whether the services were still active or not, and they still were.
I mean, this is both supportive and unsupportive of the main story, isn't it? Because he did get a warning, so which means that if he did it again, perhaps he'd have been sanctioned more effectively. So they didn't do nothing, but in your view, they didn't do enough.
Yeah, they didn't do anything to help me or my team member from it. There was nothing that came back, and it's like what the old previous call before the news said when, yes, the company that we work for, they couldn't stop that customer from saying what was said to us both, but they could do that.
That's it. No, you're right. It's a perfect illustration. They can't control what this scrote says on the phone to you or your colleague, but what they can control is how they deal with you after you've been exposed to this important behaviour, and how they deal with him. And they dealt with him inadequately, and they dealt with you not at all. Therefore, you should have had recourse to your employer to say this is a betrayal of your duty of care.
Exactly, which is why I'm in support of it.
Yeah, I like it.
What your previous call is.
I think it's a perfect example, actually, and you have not done enough. You could not have been expected to protect me, but your response to what has happened to me is not good enough, and as it stands, you have absolutely no recourse under the law to take that further or to take that up with your employer, and the way you've explained it makes that feel profoundly unfair, doesn't it?
It was very, very